Hi there, I'm Alan Dilling. I'm art director on Stormgate here at Frost Giant Studios. And today we're going to show you a little bit of a sneak peek of what we're doing with some of the factions and some of the thematic tonal change to the game. And one reason for that is we released early access and we got a lot of good feedback from the fans. And also it allows us during that time, before we go to 1.0, to kind of step back, realize where we can improve on, what we can iterate on. Just like any game studio, I think early access is tricky because everyone sees behind the curtain a little bit before things are fully baked, and every studio has the same thing where they kind of sit back and iterate more. And I think this is our chance to do that. And we're talking about some more kind of edgy, hardcore themes for the game. Like they have space demons. Let's edge them up a little bit, make them a little more evil and more menacing, and intimidating. And for the Vanguard, trying to figure out like how to make it more unique in the the RTS genre and make it feel more like Stormgate's human faction. And so today I'm going to show you a little preview of how we're going to thematically change and kind of reinvent some of the current characters that you already play with. So let's talk about the Infernals first. So one thing I want to do is I want to add more magical elements to them, a lot more glyphs. We almost have this pseudo, I call it the space magic Tron style, where they have like these lines on them, which is like magical runes and symbols, and a little edgier, darker, more scary, more intimidating. And this is the Brute, the new version of him. This is a similar iterative process we have going through him. And so obviously with RTSs, you want from top down, you want that weapon to read really well. And so we're going major big with this stuff. And what we ended up doing is going toward this for the final design. Big shapes that read well, more demonic symbols, more of a manufactured, less archaic medieval armor. These guys have been in space for eons, right? And they're not just a bunch of barbarians like Hulk smash. They're much more sophisticated than that, even though they're incredibly violent and evil inherently. I think one thing we did, a minor thing, is I took the eyes off the character here. That just makes it a little freakier overall. You can't see that in the game, but whenever you see it in the portraits and everything else, you'll notice the intimidating factor. So one cool thing about the Brutes is they actually turn into fiends. And so this is a new version of that. If you're familiar with the game, this is definitely a departure, but it feels more thematically tied into the new Brute, of course. And you can see the similarities with the horns. And again, no eyes on them. And it's kind of a raptor-ish vibe to them. And just making it feel like much more scary, much more intimidating. Like if it had a slight horror movie vibe to it. So here we have a current unit, the Gaunt, that we redid from scratch. You may notice it now is not a body on the ground anymore. It is a quadruped, more demonic centaur element, and we have the ruins on it. Just play up the magical elements. We try to make it more just intimidating, more beast-like. And instead of throwing axes, it now has a magical energy glaive, which kind of shoots out like a boomerang. And it feels like it's got a much better read in the game, and it definitely has a much more darker tone to it than our previous version. So here we go. Here is some new concepts for a caster character for the Infernals. And as you can see, compared to the current release of the game, this is again much more darker, much more sinister, just more intimidating, a little more grotesque, and just overall darker, edgier. So those concepts led to this final concept of our caster. And again, it's very unique. We're trying to make it more creepy and feel like what's special about our IP and what's special about our space demons. And the fact that he's got all these multiple sets of arms that fold in and make the body, and he's got magic just oozing through him, and just like lots of effects are going to be going off of this guy. Lots of the ruins and the glyphs, of course. We're trying to play with the masks right now on some of the characters to determine if there's anything in the lore for the Infernals that'd be kind of cool, like they can only show their face if they get to a certain level of achievement or destruction in their society or something. So there's some cool lore building we're trying to do right now with this stuff too, that's just really exciting. And you'll notice the rune on top. So we want to kind of edge those into the game in a way that makes sense for spell casting and buildings being activated, and play that up a lot more. So here's another character we're playing with right now. It's a caster, and it's kind of a take on the Hellraiser old puzzle box type of thing, where she's standing on like a Pandora's box, and she has this key of sorts, and she'll plug it in to unleash it, and it would transform and cast out various spells. So going from the initial sketch is just the idea of it, and then once we figure out the theme and the basic gameplay and what we want her to be like, then we go into the concept phase here, which we detail out a lot more with our amazing concept artists. And as you can see, the key turned into more of a magical staff, and we're trying to figure out how to make it more dynamic with it pivoting around in different key combinations, and also trying to figure out is the puzzle box, is that the best thing we could use for a thematic vehicle for her to stand on? And so here's just some other ideas. All of them are super cool, and there's never a problem coming up with cool ideas. The problem is trying to figure out which ones fit and which ones you actually can have time for, because there's all these tying in with narrative and gameplay, and so it's trying to tie all the pieces together is the tricky part. But we have a lot of good ideas here, and so we took that and we came up with another round of them, dialing things in a bit more. And as we also worked on the infernal new structures and bases, the buildings, we try to tie some of those architectural elements and some of the themes and ruins and colors into this, so there's more of a cohesive feel for them across the whole race. This is the final version for the model sheet, although we're still playing with the shape of the box on the bottom. And the point here is the key goes into the puzzle box and some kind of basic transformation. Cool magical effects going off, and she's going to be really unique and, again, more intimidating, more elegant in a certain way than a typical brute would be, but still very vicious and intimidating, and trying to put a spin on it, because right now it's so hard to put the spin on demons, right? It's been done every which way in the universe, and so we're trying to figure out what makes our ones unique, what makes ours just more interesting and cool. The fact that the Infernals have been around for eons again, and have had a civilization that's, although incredibly violent and just sinister, they've actually evolved over time to have this like magical tech to a degree, and they're not just monsters with chains and horns and screaming and running to their death, right? They're much more sophisticated than that. So we're trying to use this character here to help kind of convey some of those elements. So we talked about that last character being influenced a bit by the architecture, and so this is a very basic example of something that we might have for the Infernals, which is a huge monolithic magical generator of sorts. Once we get the cornerstones and the keystones of some of these themes and elements and colors, and feel good about that will tie in directly to the units and the other buildings. And so it starts off with a little point like this, and then it branches off and everything starts snowballing, which is great. And so here's just a very quick preview of some of the new shape language we're talking about. Again, this is just super ideation of big monolithic elements that look very heavy, intimidating, and have some animation thought to them. Again, this is just something we may or may not use, but it's just a starting point which you have to have in order to kick everything off. And so that's just a sneak peek into what we're doing for the Infernals. And we're also trying to update some of the other races as well. So here's a little preview of something we're playing with on the new technology level we're trying out for the Vanguard. Super excited about it. But you can tell here we're showcasing the more rounded, advanced underlying technology in the Vanguard, and less of the kind of ragtag, rusty, duct taped survivor kind of stuff with the gray boxes and everything. And we're trying to figure out how to make our stuff unique, like what makes our Vanguard, our humans in Stormgate different, and not just a ragtag group of soldiers using rusty old equipment. And so they would still have the war-torn elements to it. They've been through awesome fights with bullet holes, scratch marks, magic burn marks on them, dirt. But this is just a showcase of what we could go with the style and as we propagate out to the rest of the army. Now, this unit has a lot of feedback from the community, and so we decided to target it for one of the redesigning from scratch for the Vanguard. It's the same functionality, same gameplay. It's a fast land vehicle. It shoots out missiles. There's gameplay specific things like you need to see the missiles so you can count them when they're shooting. And it transforms into this missile tower when it's deployed, and you can see the transformation on the side here, how it works out. We had to figure it all out. And the next phase will be blocking it out, getting some basic animations in. And it's always tricky when we do a unit like this because it's super cool. I love transforming things, group with Robotech and all that. And it's super geeky, and we love it. It just takes a lot longer to figure everything out. And so it's definitely some consideration about which ones we want to redo at what point. But we're super excited about this one. So that was just a little peek into the new direction we're doing for the Vanguard and the Infernals. And we have so much more cool stuff to show you guys. Can't wait to get into your hands. And thanks for stopping by.